Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time. Hello and welcome to another Magic Arena gameplay video. Today we're taking a look at a Junt Warriors list that plays a whole bunch of creatures with the Warrior subtype, and the only reason why we're playing Junt Warriors is because of the existence of Unclaimed Territory naming Warrior, which makes it very easy for us to cast all our spells, and especially a card like Goblin Chainwhirler, which is usually pretty difficult to cast in a 3-color deck, is still castable thanks to Unclaimed Territory naming Warrior, letting us cast both our black and green 1-drops as well as our triple red 3-drop and Goblin Chainwhirler. So let's take a look at our entire list. We're a pretty aggressive Junt deck, but we can also play a somewhat longer game thanks to the inclusion of some grindier cards. So starting with our 1-drops, we got 4 copies of Gutterbones, 1 mana for a 2/1 Skeleton Warrior. Gutterbones enters the battlefield tapped, but we can also return it from the graveyard for 2 mana if an opponent lost a life this turn. And then we also have 3 copies of Pelt Collector as a nice 1 mana 1/1 Elf Warrior, and whenever another creature with power greater than Pelt Collector enters the battlefield or dies under our control, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on Pelt Collector, so Pelt Collector will gradually grow as we try and curve out. And then Pelt Collector also has Trample as soon as it has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on it. Then moving on to our 2-drops, we've got 3 copies of a Rixmadi Reveler, one of the few non-warriors in our deck, just as a decent 2-drop, 2 mana for a 2/2, and when the Reveler enters the battlefield we can discard a card and then draw a card. And then for the Spectacle cost of 2 a black and a red, we can discard our entire hand and then draw 3 fresh cards. So the idea with Reveler is that in the early game it can kind of smooth out our draws, maybe get rid of extra lands that we don't need, or dig towards extra lands if we need those. And then in the late game, if the Reveler is our last card we play, we simply get to draw 3 cards since we're not discarding anything to the Reveler's ability. So just a nice value play that is decent on turn 2 and then also very good in the late game. And one of the nice synergies with the Reveler is that we can simply discard a Gutterbones and then later get it back from the graveyard, which is also pretty nice. And then another 2-drop is a Growth Chamber Guardian. This is a warrior, so synergizes with our Unclaimed Territory, and it's a pretty good card, 2 mana for a 2/2, and for 3 mana we can adapt 2, putting 2 +1/+1 counters on it, and whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on the Guardian, we can search our library for an additional copy and kind of keep chaining them together. And then at 2 mana we also have 3 copies of Lightning Strike as our only cheap interaction to deal 3 damage to any target. So even against the control decks it's not a dead card since it can always go upstairs. And then at 3 mana we've got our 4 copies of Goblin Chainwhirler, excellent card even outside of mono red decks, and we're taking full advantage of it here being a warrior, so we can play it thanks to our Unclaimed Territory. And then we've got 4 copies of Gruul Spellbreaker as our other 3-drop, a 3/3 creature with Riot and Trample, so either enters the battlefield as a 4/4 Trampler or as a 3/3 Trampler with haste. And as long as it's our turn, we and Gruul Spellbreaker have hexproof, so protects us from cellular wreckage, but mostly just from spot removal spells trying to take out a Spellbreaker, forcing the opponent to make a move during their own turn. And then at 4 mana we've got 4 copies of Rekindling Phoenix, not a warrior but just a great card and a great curve stopper in this deck. At 4 power it can also help us grow the Pelt Collector 1 more, and of course Spellbreaker can help us there as well, being a 4-powered creature if we choose to give it a +1/+1 counter with Riot, still synergizes with our Pelt Collector. And of course Phoenix, just a very resilient creature, requires 2 removal spells or an exile effect to get rid of, and if there's a ground stall, which our deck is pretty good at creating, the Phoenix can fly over to get the job done. And then also at 4 mana we've got 3 copies of Status Statue. We're often going to cast a Statue half, destroying target artifact, creature or enchantment, which is a pretty useful mode to have since against the creature decks it can take out our largest creature, but against the control decks we can still take out relevant enchantments like Search for Azcanta. And then the other half of the card is Status, which for 1 mana can give target creature +1/+1 and Death Touch until end of turn, which is just a decent combo trick, especially combined with trample creatures, since if we give one of our tramplers Death Touch, we only need to assign 1 point of combat damage to a blocker, and all the rest can trample over. And also, Status is part of the Wombo combo with Goblin Chainwhirler, which is the main reason why we're including it, since if we play Goblin Chainwhirler and have 1 spare green or black mana, and hold full control while the Chainwhirler's ability is still on the stack of dealing 1 damage to each creature, and then target it with Status, now all of a sudden Goblin Chainwhirler will gain Death Touch, and the 1 damage translates into killing each of the opponent's creatures, since we're dealing 1 damage worth of Death Touch, which destroys any creature that's dealt damage to it. So Goblin Chain Whirler plus status is a one-sided board sweeper, which is a very powerful effect to have access to, and of course both cards are still totally fine by themselves, which is what makes this combo playable. And then at 5 mana to top of our curve we've got Angrath, the Flame Chained, a nice planeswalker that can make the opponent discard, so great against control decks, and then a minus ability can also steal an opposing creature, so can turn into a lot of damage out of nowhere, getting rid of a blocker and additional damage that the attacker provides. And then if the creatures convert mana cost 3 or less, we also get to destroy it. And then the ultimate is also game winning. And then last but not least, one Find Finality. Both modes can be useful. Find returning creatures from the graveyard, especially Rekindling Phoenix, Spellbreaker, and Chain Whirler can be high impact cards to return. And then Finality, a powerful sweeper effect, which can come in handy against the White Weenie type decks. And then taking a look at our mana base, of course we've got the full 4 copies of Unclaimed Territory, naming Warrior most of the time, helping us cast all the different 1-drops, as well as Goblin Chain Whirler on turn 3. And then we've got all the Gruul dual lands, all the Rakdos dual lands, 3 Overgrown Tombs, which are kind of a necessary evil, letting us cast a green and black spells, but of course doesn't help with Chain Whirler, so that's also a reason why we don't want to play our Overgrown Tomb unless we absolutely have to, since otherwise we minimize the chances of playing a Goblin Chain Whirler on curve. And then we've got 2 basic mountains as well, since every now and then you do need to search up some basics if a Cellar Wreckage or Assassin's Trophy happens. So yeah, that's the deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. What about this hand? A little awkward in that we don't get to play Gutterbones on 1. But I guess that means we'll discard to the Reveler on turn 2 for value. And then we still have Chain Whirler into Phoenix. Alright, up against mono black aggro it looks like. Not the most high value Chain Whirler, and now that we picked up status we can actually wait to keep this as kind of a board wipe. I think that's worth it. Gotta remember to go full control when playing Chain Whirler with status statue in hand. We're hoping our opponent doesn't have something like a Kitesail Freebooter to mess up our plan. Midnight Reaper's fine. I guess we could wait a turn and play the Phoenix first. As a blocker, see what they do. And if they commit more stuff into our status statue, then we get to kill more creatures. I think we're fine trading here. Cast down, and hopefully we'll see another creature here. Ghoul. And that's it. So we could yet again play another Phoenix before going Chain Whirler. I guess I don't hate it. Alright, Pestle and Spirits. So I think it's time to pull the trigger here. I suppose we should have done this main phase in case our opponent does have removal on the Chain Whirler. Because then we won't have the Phoenix back to block if we attack here. So let's go full control. Play Chain Whirler. Trigger on the stack, status. And everything dies. Alright. Marshal weaken Lightning Strike. Another Spirit. Alright, I guess we'll get in there. Opponent going for the double blocks. Alright, sweet. So the Goblin Chain Whirler plus status statue wombo combo got the job done. hand looks reasonable enough. Let's lead with a pelt collector here. Got a few options on turn 2. Looks like some sort of Esper control deck. I guess we'll play a Growth Chamber Guardian. That way we have the option of adapting on turn 3 instead of committing more stuff into a potential Kaya's Wrath. And this is still enough pressure where our opponent probably still pulls the trigger on the sweeper effect. If we draw 4th land, Phoenix is a safe creature to commit into another potential sweeper effect. They probably countered this considering they couldn't play a Kaya's Wrath, although who knows. Yeah, that's fine. Because they had a basic island, which makes Kaya's Wrath pretty awkward. Alright, I mean, I guess we're fine to attack here. Opponent needs removal. Mortify, sure. It's gonna grow the Pelt Collector, and Lightning Strike is lethal. So that game showed how important the 1-drops can be in the control matchups, just being able to apply that early pressure. I guess this looks reasonable. Can discard maybe an expensive card to the Reveler if we're about to miss land drops. Although it doesn't seem to be the case. Usually want to avoid playing Overgrown Tomb because that doesn't let us play Chain Whirler on 3.
Fire's out, but the embers burn on.
It's unclear what we should discard to the Reveler here. Don't really want to discard the Phoenix. I'm torn between one of the lands and Find Finality. I think I'll discard a land here. And hopefully we don't regret it. Yeah, we could have discarded the Phoenix and gotten it back with Find. But I'm thinking we'll need this as a sweeper effect more than for the Find part. Alright, skewer the critics. Well, I guess the play here is just play the Stabbed and then Lightning Strike the Freebooter. Probably before it hits us. And enable Spectacle. Alright, so we got our Angrath back. Next turn we'll play Phoenix. Name Warrior once again. Siege Gangs, not bad. So, Find Finality could come in handy. Well, I guess we'll just play a second Phoenix here. Playing Angrath. I mean, getting their last card I guess could be nice. And their opponent's gonna spend some resources dealing with the Phoenix potentially. I guess that's fine. Alright, was just a land. We'll keep Phoenix back on defense. Alright, Lightning Strike was a good pickup for them. Lets them take out the token without having to sack too many goblins. Otherwise, if they attacked and we blocked, they had to sacrifice 2 goblins to kill Phoenix. So I guess there's no point in blocking here.
Best start thinking fast. You're on your own.
So the interesting question is what to do if we pick up a land here. Do we wipe the board? Or do we play a Phoenix first? I guess now we have the option of Growth Chamber Guardian Adapt, which is pretty decent. Gotta make sure to tap the unclaimed territory first. And we can adapt right away. And now we have a lot of options if we draw 6 land between Find, getting back 2 creatures playing Phoenix, or just Finality. Could go Pelt Collector into Phoenix. Could be another Lightning Strike here. Yep. That's fine. Alright, I guess we're down to go Pelt Collector Phoenix. Could also Spellbreaker instead of Phoenix to save the 4-powered creature for later for Pelt Collector. Although we can always choose the +1 counter on Riot. Alright, Siege Gang Commander gonna throw its last Goblin Friend at the Pelt Collector. So they'll have a hard time getting past the Phoenix now. So the Siege Gang's gonna sacrifice itself here to kill the Phoenix. That's fine. Alright, so land 6. Got a few options. I guess I don't hate getting back to Phoenix. Could also get back like 1 Phoenix and 1 Rixmani Reveler to eventually enable Spectacle and draw some more cards, but we've got a lot of action in hand, so don't feel the need to really do that. Three haste would have been decent too, I guess. Alright, that'll do it. This hand's not great. No black mana for these Gutter Bones. I think this is a mulligan. This hand's also pretty awkward since we don't have triple red for Chain Whirler. Pretty far from it. But I think we still keep. And play the Blood Crypt here. So at the very least we get to Reveler, discarding maybe a creature to help us dig for lands. Make sure to play the red land. So it's kind of painful to have to discard something like Phoenix here. So it's either Overgrown Tomb or Phoenix. If we ditch Overgrown Tomb and don't draw a land in the next 2 draws, then we're going to be pretty sad. But it might be correct to kind of go for it here anyway, since we're going to want a Chain Whirler to get rid of the Solana Elves pretty badly. Alright, got there. They're in Spellbreaker. So I don't mind double blocking the Spellbreaker if our opponent gives us a chance. A Rhythm of the Wilds, fair enough. No attacks. Alright, well, let's just play a bunch of Phoenix. Kind of surprised our opponent blocked there. What if we had another Goblin Chain Whirler? I guess our opponent could do the same, which is why they did block. What do I intend to bring to the Mythic Invitational? Well, you'll have to wait 1 week and then I'll be able to tell you. Alright, well, now we do have the Chain Whirler. Could attack with their own Goblin Chain Whirler here, since if they block with a Spellbreaker we have Chain Whirler, but that would make it a little bit too obvious, and I'm happy just getting rid of the Phoenix here. Alright, so hopefully they don't top deck their own Chain Whirler here, and we get to start beating down with Phoenix, while double Chain Whirler holds the ground. And more Growth Chamber Guardians. That's fine. Finds the last one. But 3/3 first strike, surprisingly effective on defense here. Oh, looks like opponent found a removal spell for the Phoenix token. So that reduces our clock significantly. I guess we could just play a 4/4 Spellbreaker on defense as well. Guess that's fine. So opponent still doesn't have any great attacks. Wow, Italy, that's unexpected. So opponent figures they might as well attack with everyone. What did they find? Wow, a Lava Coil. Killing one of our Chain Whirlers. That's pretty good. Or the Phoenix, I guess that also makes sense. But now our opponent's just dead on the way back. Get to double block here, block there. Take, how much is this? 13. And we have lethal on the way back. Sweet. Hand seems decent. Let's just play a Guardian here. Alright. So if they had a Shock or a Wizard's Lining, they probably would have attacked. So does that mean we want to adapt here? Or just play a Spellbreaker? I guess we'll just play a Spellbreaker for now. They could have also been hoping for us to adapt. So that kills the Guardian. Fine to kill the Chain Whirler here, I think. And start attacking. Since we do want to turn the corner before too long here. And Angrath is a nice follow-up next turn. Since I imagine the Guardian's gonna die. Maybe light up the stage. Find Secure the Critics, so that's a nice one. Why not attack first before the Lightning Strike? Yeah, we could have done that, although I doubt our opponent blocks there. So we could minus Angrath to kill the Lava Runner, although then we make it pretty easy for them to just point the 2 damage from Pyromancer to finish off Angrath. What happens if we plus? We get their last card, which could be something good. And then they have to spend a bit of burn killing Angrath, which is fine by me. Or we could keep Spellbreaker back to protect Angrath as well. Alright, so we got our risk factor. So we could attack for 4. What happens? Our opponent plays Pyromancer, puts Angrath to 3. And then they can either Skewer to finish it off or attack for 4 damage with the Lava Runners to kill it. because we're not going to be able to race here, because their opponent's going to have multiple blockers for the Spellbreaker if they want to, and they've got more burn and more power in play to race us with. Surprised they didn't deal the 2 damage to Angrath. Pyromancer can indeed redirect to Planeswalkers. Oh, I guess that's right. They can't skewer the critics for 1 mana if they don't deal damage to us first. So I guess they're just willing to sack a Lava Runner. So I guess this would have happened either way if they wanted to kill Angrath. Whether they attack us first with the Lava Runners and then Pyromancer Angrath and then skewer Angrath, or do it this way, I think it would have ended up the same. Alright, well, we'll need to draw something. But we are still at 14 against the burn deck, and they're almost empty-handed, so we've got that going for us. Just need to draw Rekindling Phoenix, find Finality, another Spellbreaker would be decent. Even a Goblin Chainwhirler. In the meantime, our opponent casts their 3rd Light of the stage, so they're definitely ahead on cards. Alright, that's a good one too. I think Gutterbones can attack. And next turn we can be a little bit more aggressive with our 4/4s. Alright, well, Goblin Chainwhirler off the top would be probably our best top deck. Although another Angrath is not bad. So if we steal Lava Runner, would it have +1? It doesn't, so it would become a 1/2. If we steal a Pyromancer, that's 12 damage. Opponent has to block, so it'll be left with, let's say, a Gitu Lava Runner. Will be at 3 life. I think that's worth it.
Hear me, monsters. Your crew for my freedom. A fair price.
So this comes down whether or not your opponent can top deck a burn spell, or finds a 1 mana burn spell off of a jump-started risk factor. Alright. Opponent gets to draw 3. Do they find a 1 mana burn spell? They do. Shock. Alright, so this was definitely close. Possible we should have been more aggressive last turn when we played the Growth Chamber Guardian with the Gruul Spellbreaker. Whenever you end the game and it's this close, there's always the thought that maybe we could have done something different, and that's definitely the case here. Alright, what about this one? Sure. Turn 1 Pelt Collector, turn 2 Reveler or Growth Chamber Guardian. Depends whether or not we need to find lands. Mono blue, so we just want to keep up the pressure. I guess I don't mind playing Reveler, discarding Overgrown Tomb. Could keep this as our last card, but with a Growth Chamber Guardian that I prefer to resolve, in case they had an Essence Capture here. We'll have plenty of stuff in our hands, thanks to the Adapt ability. Alright, I'm fine trading Pelt Collector for Trickster if that's what they want. Even though the Pelt Collector could have eventually gotten bigger. Making Spellbreaker into a 4/4 is pretty advantageous in the face of a potential Tempest Djinn. I think we start by attacking. Could also just go tap land plus Growth Chamber Guardian. And then next turn we have a ton of options. And I think I would prefer this getting countered than Spellbreaker. Plus we don't have to take 2, which could definitely be relevant. Alright, given that they didn't show Tempest Djinn, I think we're fine giving this haste now. Land gives us Phoenix, which is an excellent blocker. Well, our opponent didn't draw Curious Obsession, they didn't draw Tempest Djinn, so their draw was kind of underpowered. Sure, we'll keep. Got Gutter Bones to start, turn to Lightning Strike to interact, and then some Spellbreakers to top off our curve. Black-white, so it could be Esper, and Esper confirmed. So how likely are we to want a Lightning Strike next turn? I mean, we're probably just gonna fire it off since we do have Rixmati Revelers in our deck, so if we can be empty-handed, it's probably an advantage. So I don't mind taking some damage here. Ooh, Dovin's Acuity, so this is Acuity control. Fair enough. Let's get in there. Let's see if they have the Chaos Wrath. If they don't have a Chaos Wrath, then it's interesting whether or not we attack with a hasty Spellbreaker or not. Alright, well, now we definitely do. Flooding out a bit, so it's not looking great here. We can get back a Gutter Bones next turn if the Spellbreaker is still around, but it's likely that they have a Mortify here. So we can still Chain Whirler and get back Gutter Bones if we don't draw anything else. So gotta make sure to tap our mana properly. Alright, so next turn, hopefully we get to get in some damage. But this is definitely a pretty rough matchup if we don't draw Angrath or Phoenix. Another Mortify. Alright. Now if we draw Rixmati Reveler, we're not even guaranteed to have enabled the damage for Spectacle. Mission Briefing, Chaos Wrath. Alright. Well, there's a Reveler, so this is awkward. Would have loved to Spectacle the Reveler, but now we just have to be satisfied with drawing one card. Which is another mountain. Yeah, not winning this one. Need an Angrath or Rekindling Phoenix off the top. I guess fines is not terrible. And let's see. They've only actually used one Chaos Wrath, so they can easily be holding additional copies. So it's not entirely clear what we're supposed to do here. I guess what we can do is get one hasty Spellbreaker and then get back Gutter Bones. Or we can just go face and hope they don't have a Chaos Wrath and hit them for 8 here. I mean, hoping they don't have another Chaos Wrath might be the play, since we're probably not beating one anyway. So I guess I'm down. Alright, please no Chaos Wrath. Alright, opponent's drawing first. 6 mana left. Alright, looks like we might get another attack step. And that lets us return the Gutter Bones. But it's still not looking great here. Alright, I mean they didn't have the Chaos Wrath last turn, so might as well. Alright, this does look like a Chaos Wrath. Well, they probably drew it either for the turn or with the last Dovin's Acuity. It's unfortunate. Status Statue can of course destroy an Acuity, but I think it's pretty much game over now. Opponent's got 6 cards in hand, plus a Dovin's Acuity. This Status Statue is not gonna cut it. We'll give it one more draw step in case we top deck like an Angrath, but their opponent's probably holding Vraska's Content by now. And yeah, Acquisition for a sideboard card. Not sure what that's gonna be in this spot. Ethereal Absolution, fair enough. Got a 3/2 Phoenix, but now when it dies, the Absolution gets rid of the token as well, so it's pretty good against us. Alright, I think that's game. Well, they didn't quite kill it yet, but I guess I can just block it with a Spirit Token. Yeah, this game's over. Alright. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed. And as always, have a nice day. I also want to thank all my patrons for being part of the channel, and you can become a patron yourself today and decide the topic of future videos over at patreon.com/LegenVD.